you had the Chemical Bank. Okay, the Chemical Bank. This was a company that was created by Roosevelt and Son. Okay, a lot of people don't even know what Chemical Bank is, but as you see here, this is the Roosevelt's family project. Mind you, this was running 1797 all the way up 1934. It split into three firms. So while you still have this, you have the Chemical Bank still running, 201 years old. Okay, acquired Chase Bank in 1996. Now, the Chemical Bank was absolutely in operations during the time where you had the quartermasters swiping up millions of acres of land. The Chemical Bank is a holdings bank and a trust company. Okay, you got a Roosevelt in office, and you got a Roosevelt controlling a huge bank. Okay, now guys, how is war? Well, how was the wars back and then funded? Anybody know?